Why did uranium sell off this week? Well, that's the question that we're going to answer today, but it's certainly not because of the fundamentals. Well, we got to start with the fact that general markets absolutely sold off this week. Mainly because, well, we're in a bear market, but either way, once again, let's get into some numbers that might have impacted as well as some other news. So first up, we had housing starts and permits come out. So housing starts were 1.575 million, expected was 1.45 million, and last month it was 1.404 million. And then housing permits was 1.517 million, expected was 1.604 million, and last was 1.677 million. So you can see this chart now on screen. There is clearly a massive difference in month-over-month performance between the two metrics. But essentially what this is telling us is that home builders are anticipating higher rates, so they're clamoring to get in before rates rise even higher. Essentially, higher rates. We don't want new permits because it will be more expensive to build in the future. More expensive to build in the future equals build more now. To continue with the real estate numbers, we also had existing home sales come out. That was 4.8 million. Estimated was 4.7 million, and previous was 4.82 million, which in turn is a 0.4% decline month over month. Estimate was negative 2.3 and previous was negative 5.7, so it definitely was a lot better than previous month, though still negative. That's of course not good. And so you can see that the chart right here shows that existing home sales have dropped for 7 consecutive months. If you want to know something, not so fun fact, this is the longest decline since October 2007, so demand destruction is clearly hitting real estate. And what these reports are essentially telling us, to put it all together, increasing interest rates are hurting real estate. Obviously. And so to swing that back to uranium, interest rates don't just hurt real estate, it, messes with everything, obviously, very important. And so because a lot of what interest rates does to bring down inflation is reduce demand. But in a way, you're also kind of reducing supply due to the fact that it's more difficult to finance new construction and things like that, right? We saw that with the home builders, and it's going to be the same thing with any mine, right? It's going to make a mine more difficult to open if all of a sudden they have to pay a way higher interest rate on all their debt to, afford their hundreds of millions of capex and whatnot. So definitely be cautious with your uranium stocks. They'll have yet another cost increase in their mines for every rate hike. Speaking of rate hike, that's the biggest thing that moved the market this week. Well, I should say could be blamed for moving the market this week. Who knows how much, these actual numbers or speeches or whatever are actually directly moving the market. It's still a good thing to cover, though. Essentially, FOMC meeting. 75 basis hike, no pivot in sight. That's all you need to know. And one other thing that I think is definitely important to notice is Putin also announced a major escalation in Ukraine, yet this barely moved the market. That shows how broken the stock market is. On a side note, that, the government officials talking about, financial changes is more important than Putin mentioning nuclear war. Yeah, that's real. You can go look in the description. I have that linked. He's currently semi-mobilizing more of the Russian army to send into Ukraine, and he did kind of threaten nuclear weapons. So that's not good, but we don't need to cover that too much because, if that goes south, well, you have a lot worse things to deal with than your portfolio, to put it mildly, if you're, still around. Anyways, though, to lighten up the mood a little bit, let's go back to uranium. Though I guess that's not really lighten the mood, because uranium sold off a lot this week. Well, I guess this whole video is just going on a bad note, I guess. Essentially, why did uranium stocks sell off? Well, it's really simple, really. Look at this chart here of URNM overlaid on the SPX, so the S&P 500. They move identically. Flows are simply outruling the fundamentals on uranium. Until that changes, hopefully you don't mind seeing big drawdowns on your U portfolio. Anyways, this is not financial advice. Do your own research. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.